I got pretty often is people asking me where 2nd Battalion Command Post was. No, until about a year and a half ago, this part was not harvested yet. It was kind of untouched, and I was kind of like pointed out to somewhere in the back of the woods. But now it's all disappearing, and all the foxholes that were in the trenches here are disappearing because they cut the branches, they pull the roots out, they cover the foxholes, and it will disappear. It will all be gone here in just a matter of time. Now, at that time, when people ask me, like, 2nd Battalion Command Post, the only reason they ask is because they want to know where Dick Winters' command post was. That's it. Now, at that time, Captain Winters was not in charge of E Company anymore. That was Lieutenant Dyke, who was a Toccoa original, for the first time, in charge of a rifle company. Now, his job was taking the boys home. When the Battle of the Bulge began, he found himself committed to the battlefield here, and with no experience. And when you ask the veterans who served under him, and I asked them, like, hey, how they portrayed him in the miniseries, he didn't come out pretty well. And they all give the same answer. They say, well, he was even worse than that. That's the answer I got. Now, at that time, Captain Winters was at Battalion. He was not a battalion commander. That was at the time Robert Strayer, but because of problems and shortage of senior officers at regiments, Strayer was called back to regiment. Now, the whole 506, just the same as the 501st and the 502nd, that was always on a daily basis. The senior officers were killed, wounded. For example, in Noville, the very first day, 1st Battalion Commander James Laprade was killed by a shell coming into his command post, killed him instantly.
Noville.
The one with him, Commander of 10th Armored, Bill Desobry, Combat Command B, was severely wounded and evacuated. Simultaneously, Bob Harwick had arrived in Bastogne. How come he wasn't with the group? At the time when the 101st moved out of Mourmelon, Bob Harwick was visiting World War I sites in France. He got back to Camp Mourmelon and all the division had moved out. So where did they go? Well, the Ardennes. So they sent him after. And he got there to Bastogne, no rifle, no helmet, nothing. Reported in the center of town, he asked where the battalion was. He said, well, they pointed out towards Noville. So he kept walking all the way to Noville, which is quite a distance on the whole N30. And he reached the aid station. They directed him to the command post. He walked in there, and he says, okay, where's Laprade? Well, dead. Well, where's Desobry? Evacuated. So who's in charge now, he asks. And they look at him like, you? So he found himself being promoted on the spot. But this happened time after time. Now, later on in January, Harwick gets wounded in the Fazone Woods. A burst, kind of tore his chest open. They evacuated him. His assistant, Charlie Shettle, takes over 1st Battalion. And about 2 hours later, he got wounded. So they had to send another guy down. I believe it was Clarence Hester who was sent down to take over 1st Battalion. 1st Battalion 506 had 3 battalion commanders in 8 hours. That was the record. They were Bastogne. But they had to keep sending out these senior officers to take over command. So Strayer was called back to regiment and leaving the next one, highest ranked officer here, in charge of 2nd Battalion, which happened to be Captain Richard Winters. Now he didn't particularly like that, being a captain, because everybody would laugh at him, wearing his captain bars, saying like, hey, I'm in charge of the battalion. So he strapped his first aid kit to his helmet to hide his captain bars. He had to deal at the meetings at the regimental CP in Luzery at the time. He was at the table surrounded by colonels. This was a job for a lieutenant colonel. Now people ask me now to be in good contact with all 3 of his rifle companies, which E, D, and F. He dug in, set up his command post about 150, 200 yards behind the front line, which is exceptionally close to the front line, which actually, to me personally, is a stupid idea. I don't know why he did it. For example, we just visited Bert Collier's command post, and that was a platoon command post. That's even further away from the front line. So a battalion command post should be a bit further. But on his last visit here in, I believe it was 91, 92, he came here with maps and he pointed out, like, this is where I set up my command post. There's a patch of about 5-6 foxholes in a circle. He couldn't say like that one was mine, but it was about 20 yards from this dirt road. And he pointed out this location. And if you look at here, here's one, there's about 5 in a circle around here. So people, if you want to know where was Dick Winters' command post, we're breaking the ice, shaving, talking to Harry Welch. That's where Harry Welch was wounded as well. That's right here. But it's all disappearing right now.
Sad.
Now there's one anecdote I want to share with you, because when he was in charge here, they've been holding off the Germans. He was visited on the 27th of December by General Maxwell Taylor. Could have been the 28th as well, when General Taylor came in after Patton broke through the lines. And General Taylor visited the front lines. He even also visited this location, had a chat with Winters and with the guys from Battalion. And when he left, he kind of took Winters by his arm. And you're going to reenact Winters, okay? On a harm. And he says,
It's a big job.
he says, may I give you one more advice?
Yes, sir.
He says, well, you take a look. You see the woods there, the other side of the road? Now you make damn sure these Germans don't break through that area. And Winters had to bite his lip because he couldn't say it, but he was thinking, he was like, what the hell? You think we have been doing here for the past 8 days? Now all of a sudden, General shows up, telling him what to do. Now you make sure they don't break through that area.
Oh shit.
But he said I couldn't say it at one point. Now that's the kind of impression that General Taylor left on a lot of the guys here in Bastogne, because of course on his way to the Ardennes here, with the call of being in charge, Taylor had read newspapers heading "American General replies nuts to German ultimatum," and it was his division, so he thought it was time to get some credits as well. Now at the time, after the Patton's breakthrough, 6th Armored Division were moving, clearing up the eastern flank of Bastogne, while the 17th Airborne and the 11th Airborne were going on the western flank here. But who was going to push the Germans away from Bastogne himself? All the guys from the 101st on the line here, they thought they would be relieved. Because after holding this for a week, more than a week, being surrounded. But then it was General Taylor coming in, and it was his decision, and his decision only, to keep the 101st on the line and let them do the pushbacks. And I double-checked last year with Mr. Koski-Mackie, who was with Taylor. I said, may I ask you one question? I said, whose decision was it? And he says, Taylor. And his decision only. This way was one of the reasons why he wasn't that loved by some of the men. They'll say he was a great general, but they preferred McAuliffe, in such similar situations. Like that. If you want to walk around, it's easy to find. It's where the single tree is standing, right in front of it.